Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned for another fantastic video, Roger. It's another thrilling video. So this is going to be a couple things in one today. I have to do my weekly reading report, so that's going to happen. I got a box in the mail. Yes, another box in the mail. So I've got book mail, I'm assuming. I'm assuming they're books. That's usually what people send me. It's not ticking, so that's a good sign. And yeah, so those are the things I'm going to do today. You know, things have been a little busy around this place recently, and I haven't been able to make as many videos as I wanted to, and I haven't been able to read nearly as much as I've wanted to. I'm actually behind in my reading. But, you know, we carry on the best we can, Roger. And also, I don't think it's next week, but the week after, we're going to have guests here at the Manor from Italy. So we've got some Italians coming to the Manor, and I'm sure that'll affect how many videos I can do and how much reading I can get done, because you got to pay attention to the guests, you know. Don't eat them. Roger says he likes Italian food, but you can't eat them. No. Can't do that. So let's get right to it. So, okay, I did get a package in the mail. I guess I'll do that first, and then we'll talk about the stuff that I read last week. Yeah, that's how we'll do it. I've got my official package opener right here. I've got my package right here that used to be an Amazon box, but this one did not come from Amazon. And I don't know if this person wants me to mention their name or not. I can't remember, so I just won't. Friend of the channel sent me this box of books, and I do not know what's in here. So let's find out. What's in this box? I will open it with my handy box opener. Okay. Set that right there. Let's take a look. Wow. Okay, there's quite a few things in here. Okay, let's take a look. Wow, there's DVDs in here as well. Wow. Okay. So, it's Flashmen on the March. It's Flashmen on the March. So, I don't have any of these Flashmen books. At least I didn't until right at this very second. This same individual did send me a book from Fraser, which was about pirates, that I have sitting right over there that I haven't read yet. But now I have Flashmen, so that's awesome, because I'm always hearing about Flashmen and never reading Flashmen because I haven't had any of the Flashmen books. But now I do. Now I have that. That's awesome. And I've got another Flashmen book. That was Flashmen on the March, and this is Flashmen and the Mountain of Light. Flashmen and the Mountain of Light. There you go. That looks awesome. Okay, got a couple Flashmen books. That's cool. I've got... Oh my goodness. Okay, well this is remarkable. So this is Cull of Atlantis, but this is a hardcover. This person sent me a hardcover of Cull, Exile of Atlantis. That is amazing. Wow. Thank you. That is very cool. That's amazing. Look at that. Well, I very much appreciate that. Cull! This is, of course, from the Del Rey series. You can get this book, and I would recommend it. You can get this new as a paperback, but I'm not sure you can get the hardcover anymore, or if you wanted to get the hardcover, how much it would cost. So I have no idea. But this is the Del Rey edition hardback. It was first published in a hardback from, was it Wandering Star? I can't remember. But that one is super expensive. That's like $300. But this one is from Del Rey, and it's very kind to send this to me. Wow, that's fantastic. Cull! And another one, a hardcover of Bran McMorn, The Last King. That's amazing. Wow. Thank you. That's very nice. That's very nice. Awesome. Okay. That's cool. So, Robert E. Howard, Bran McMorn, The Last King. If you've never read these Bran McMorn stories, you really should, because they're really awesome. So, yeah, there you go. Bran McMorn, The Last King. What else do we have in here? Okay, Louis L'Amour. I'm winning. I'm winning in this one. This is some good stuff. Okay, this is Louis L'Amour, Beyond the Great Snow Mountains. Beyond the Great Snow Mountains. And there's Louis L'Amour in the Snow Mountains right there. So his new book, Classic Adventure Stories Collected for the First Time. So what I think this probably is a bunch of his probably non-Western adventure stories that he wrote for the pulps back in the day. I'm assuming that's what these are. But I won't know until I read it. But there's a bunch of cool stories in here, and I've probably never read any of them. So that's fantastic. I love Louis L'Amour. You know, whatever he writes, I'm up for reading. And that's great. Beyond the Great Snow Mountains. He actually sent me another Louis L'Amour book of stories that weren't Western stories that I've also got sitting over there in the corner. So I've got another one to read. And what is this? This is Janet Ivanovic, Two for the Dough. Two for the Dough. So is this a mystery or crime, something or other? Yeah, bounty hunter Stephanie Plum debuted in Janet Ivanovic's award-winning One for the Money. So this is the sequel to that. So I've never read a Stephanie Plum novel from Janet Ivanovic. Never read one of this person's books, but now I can because I've got it right here. So that's awesome. Thank you for that. And is Stephanie... No, she's a bounty hunter. Yeah, she's a bounty hunter. Okay. That's cool. Oh, we've got some William Johnstone. People are always giving me grief because I'm never reading any Johnstone for June on the Range. And that's because I don't have any. But now I do. This is Triumph of the Mountain Man. Triumph of the Mountain Man. And I've got a sequel to that or another one in the series. This is Rage of the Mountain Man. So he rages and triumphs. So there you go. Mountain Man stuff. That's awesome. There is still more stuff in here. Tim McGuire's The Manhunt. Manhunt. That's awesome. That looks like a fantastic Western. This is a leisure Western. This is back when they still had decent covers before they started doing all those weird, crappy Photoshop covers that leisure books started to do right before they went under. Leisure Books is no longer with us. But Manhunt, there you go. I did not have this one. I'm fairly certain. I've got a million Westerns, but this was not one of the ones that I had. So that's really cool. Then we've got the Louis L'Amour Companion, which is a book I do have, but this one is in much nicer condition. So that's cool. This is actually in really good shape. This particular one. That is cool. Yeah, this one's really nice. Louis L'Amour Companion. This is a good book. I did a whole video on this, actually. But, yeah, the one I had isn't this nice. So that's nice that I've got that. Here's another Western, Ralph Compton's Skeleton Road, the Sundown Riders series. So we've got Skeleton Road. Is this a Ralph Compton book that's actually written by Ralph Compton? Yes, it is. How about that? That's cool. There you go. And we've got another Compton book, Striker's Revenge. Oh, but this one is not by Compton. This is by Joseph A. West. This is one of those weird things that the publishing industry likes to do nowadays, which is really weird to me, where it says a Ralph Compton Western by Joseph A. West. That is just, somebody explain this to me. So you're buying a Ralph Compton book because you love Ralph Compton, but it's not even by him. But I'm assuming it's a good book. It's just written by Joseph A. West. You think it would be better if Joseph A. West had his name all big right there. He probably deserves it. He wrote the book. Oh, I didn't have this one. This is fantastic. So this is The Rustlers of West Fork. And this is a Hopalong Cassidy novel written by Louis L'Amour. So he did write some Hopalong Cassidy novels early in his career, I believe. And they were changed a little bit by the publisher, the people who published the books. But maybe this is his original version. I don't know. It's Rustlers of West Fork. I'll find out. But that's cool because I did not have this book. So that's awesome because now I do. Thank you for sending me that. That's really cool. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Star Bright. This is Star Bright. Planet Earth is burning. One day soon there will be no future. So this looks like an end of the world type of novel, which cost somebody at some point 99 cents. Author of the Aquarius mission, Martin Caden. So I'm going to have to find out about this, this book, because I haven't heard of this one. But of course, I've got to read it because, you know, it looks awesome. So Star Bright. One day there will be no future. Yeah, it's starting to feel that way, Roger, actually, in real life, unfortunately. And then we have another Jstone book, The First Mountain Man, Preacher's Fortune. That must be the first mountain man there. He shaves. This mountain man shaves. He's not like one of those scruffy mountain men. No, not this guy. He goes to the barber, he shaves, he's on top of things. You know, he's on top of a mountain, actually. This is the first time it's in print. William W. Jstone's Preacher's Fortune. There you go. So I've got a few of these Jstone books to read now. So now I have no excuse not to read them. So that's cool. And he also sent me a couple DVDs. Oh my goodness. Veronica Lake, Sullivans Travels, which I don't think I've ever seen. That's nice. It looks all brand new and stuff. It's still in its little package. It's a Criterion Collection movie. It's all fancy pants. So that actually is something I would watch, Sullivans Travels, because it's old. It's from 1942. And I don't remember if I've seen it. Probably not. I don't think I've seen this particular movie. But now I have to because it's a masterpiece. And I got it for free. So yeah, I should see it. I have seen this next movie about 1 million times. Although I didn't have a copy of it. I didn't have a DVD of it. And that's Young Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein, of course, is a work of sheer genius. But I probably haven't seen it since I was in my 20s. So that was a while ago. So it's probably been about 25 years since I've seen. That's insane because this movie was really good. But I remember up to that point, I'd seen this movie a lot. It was always on cable and stuff. And every time it was on, I would watch it. And I'm sure I rented it a couple times. Remember back when Blockbuster existed? Back when the video stores existed, I know I rented this a few times probably. Young Frankenstein, because I remember seeing this quite a bit on VHS. Did I have the VHS? I don't think I did. Definitely don't have the DVD, but now I do. So this is awesome. Thank you. So that is my book mail, and I got some good stuff. Hardcover Robert E. Howard. Amazing. So thank you. That was amazing. Thank you for sending me that box. It's fantastic. And now let's talk about the stuff I read last week, Roger. We had to get to it eventually. So I will break out my list for the 500 book challenge. People can send me books, but I can't buy them myself. At least until I'm done with the 500 book challenge. And when I left off, the last book I had finished was Conan the Age Unconquered, which was a graphic novel collection from the new Conan series. That was book 264, and I was on book 265, which I read, which was this book, which was The Moonpool by A. Merritt, which I have heard very different things about recently when I mentioned that I was reading this. Some people say it sucks. Some people think it's awesome. I had read this once before when I was much younger. I probably read this around the time I was reading a bunch of Edgar Rice Burroughs when I was a teenager, because this is very much that kind of thing. The Moonpool. A. Merritt wrote a bunch of science fiction, fantasy kinds of books. He's more of a fantasy writer than a science fiction writer, to be honest. Although in this book, as I mentioned in my last video when I mentioned it, you could find a scientific explanation for everything that happens here. you would just be kind of stretching it, because there's some pretty crazy things that happen in this book. It is a Lost World novel, kind of in the tradition of H. Rider Haggard's books. It's more similar to some of the stuff that Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote. Although this was kind of darker. This has a merit. Some of his stories, they border on horror at times, because some of the things that happen in his books are quite terrible. And this book originated as two different stories. He wrote the Moonpool, and then he wrote a sequel to that. And he fixed them all up into this novel, which was published, I believe, in 1919, although I could be mistaken on that. The original story, The Moonpool, reads a lot more like a horror story than anything else. You have this mysterious thing called the Dweller of the Moonpool, and it's just this horrible, mysterious, glowing monstrosity, which can turn you into a zombie, basically. It's pretty creepy, and the original story, The Moonpool, definitely felt pretty creepy. And H.P. Lovecraft, who actually met Merritt in real life, had the chance to tell him, hey, your original story, The Moonpool, was really good, but that novel wasn't as good. Lovecraft felt that the whole novel was not nearly as good as just the original short story was. And definitely the sequel to that original story, The Moonpool, has a very different feel. And it gets pretty weird, where you have a couple adventurers, you have a scientist, and just this sailor, this adventurous sailor. They go, and some other people go into the mysterious realm inside the earth where this creature from the Moonpool originates. And they discover an entire lost civilization with bizarre technology and alien creatures and very strange lost races. And of course, a beautiful princess and a beautiful priestess who is actually the villain of this story. And she's a great villain. It's fantastic. It's a tremendous amount of fun. Very pulpy, but at the same time, Merritt has such an imagination. The stuff he comes up with, it's just great as far as the weird stuff he puts in this book. Where he fails probably is the characterizations of the characters. They're all stereotypes in one way or another. Some more severe as stereotypes than others, some of the characters in this book. And so it really feels its age when it comes to that. And some of the dialogue, people say, much like Edgar Rice Burroughs, people say things that nobody would ever say in the real world, in ways that nobody would ever actually say them outside of a melodramatic book or a melodramatic movie or something. I don't think Merritt is quite as convincing in his storytelling as Edgar Rice Burroughs is. But the menaces in his book are more menacing. Certainly the Dweller, the horrific globe-right creature or thing in this story that can turn vast numbers of people into zombies and has for like centuries. That is pretty frightening. And there are some just great moments in this book. Some of the things he comes up with are pretty great. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's not a masterpiece. Some people have claimed this is a masterpiece. I don't think so, but other people have said it's terrible, and it's not. It's an awful lot of fun. The Moonpool, which was Roger's pick for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, And it was a good one. And this was what I read for the first week of Rocket Summer, which is going on right now. The first week, last week of Rocket Summer, was devoted to books from the beginning of science fiction, whenever you decide that could have been, all the way up through the 1930s. And so this definitely counted. So I read this, and it was fantastic. And that was book 265. Book 266, the other thing I finished, I only finished a couple books, was I finally finished this epic collection of the Fantastic Four, All in the Family, which contains Fantastic Four issues 296 through 307, annual number 20, and all 4 issues of Fantastic Four versus the X-Men. These were stories that were published in 1986 and 1987. And these comic books came immediately after John Byrne's legendary run on the Fantastic Four, which was just a great run. And I enjoyed it tremendously. I am reading every issue of the Fantastic Four from the first run of the Fantastic Four, which ran from 1961 all the way up through until 1996, when it was canceled and immediately brought back. But here we are in the 80s, 86 and 87. At this point in the book, we did have those 4 issues of the Fantastic Four going up against the X-Men. And those 4 issues were pretty cool. They were, all 4 issues, the X-Men played a part in the story, of course, but it felt much more like a Fantastic Four story, to be honest. And I think it works more as a Fantastic Four story than an X-Men story. And the other issues in here they mostly focus on the Thing, Ben Grimm, who was missing from the book for a long time because John Byrne, for some reason, decided to replace the Thing with She-Hulk, which was not my favorite move. But the Thing has finally returned, only to find that Johnny Storm has married Alicia Masters, who was the Thing's girlfriend for years and years. Now, we know at this point that she was actually a Skrull from outer space who was just impersonating Alicia Masters, which makes more sense, frankly. But at this point, we didn't know that. We didn't find that out for years. You know, it wasn't until like the 90s, I think, that we found out that she was a Skrull the whole time. But now reading it, it's kind of interesting reading this, saying, "Oh yeah, she was a Skrull." I remember reading these issues. I didn't read every issue of the Fantastic Four at this time, but I would read a few here and there. We're moving into a time in the Fantastic Four which was not my favorite time when I first read the book, but we'll see how I feel about it now. So I finished this, and now I moved on to the next epic collection, which is The More Things Change, because the Thing goes through those cosmic rays again and gets even more mutated and turns into this really weird version of the Thing. And to make matters worse, the Miss Marvel at the time, Marvel had a different Miss Marvel back in the day, and a few different ones, and the Miss Marvel at this particular point in time is with him, and she's also mutated by the cosmic rays, and instead of becoming another Invisible Woman or something like that, she actually becomes another Thing. So she becomes a Thing, just like Ben Grimm. Like I said, not my favorite point in the book. Reed Richards and the Invisible Woman are not in the book anymore because they went off to try to raise their kid in some kind of normal life or something. So, you know, I like it when the original Fantastic Four is on the Fantastic Four. But we'll see how I feel about these stories now. Doctor Doom obviously plays a part. Stories in this book go from 87 to 88. So yeah, I haven't started this book yet. It actually starts with a Marvel graphic novel. The Hulk and the Thing is reprinted in here, which was a Jim Starlin story illustrated by the great horror artist Bernie Wrightson, who co-created the Swamp Thing and did so many other great stuff. Bernie Wrightson. He worked a lot with Stephen King, And he illustrates this graphic novel. So I'm looking forward to that because I don't think I've ever read it. So there's that. But I also read some Superman. So I am reading Superman every day. I'm back on the Reading Superman Every Day challenge, which officially started July 1st, although I started doing it before then. And this is the 85th anniversary collection. I've read all of the Golden Age stories in here. I've read all the Silver Age stories, which were awesome. And now I'm in the Bronze Age. And the next one I have to read is Who Was That Dog I Saw You With Last Night? Krypto is in this story, which is appropriate since Krypto is showing up in the movie theaters very soon in the new Superman movie, which, like I've said before, looks like it's going to be good, but who knows? You know, I don't have much confidence in any superhero movies anymore. I just read a really awesome story in here, which was A Girl Mightier Than Superman. She wasn't, so I'm not sure why they put that on the title, on the cover, excuse me. But it was an awesome issue. It was really good. And Kurt Swan artwork. And Kurt Swan is just magnificent. He's just a great comic book artist who did such wonderful work on Superman for so long. So it was fun reading that Kurt Swan story. And yeah, I'll be continuing to read Superman every day. Hopefully, I'm trying to read Superman every day for a year, at which point I'll decide if I'm going to do it anymore, but I probably will. So I read all that stuff, but there's a lot of stuff I wanted to get to that I didn't get to. I didn't get to any horror comic books this week, which I wanted to. I wanted, frankly, to read more of those comics, and I didn't. I didn't read as much of anything as I wanted to, and I'm reading this right now, which is The Best of John W. Campbell, a fantastic, beautiful book that was sent to me by Steve Donoghue. He found this at the Brattle bookstore. And I knew this would be perfect for the first week of Rocket Summer. So I started it for the first week of Rocket Summer, but I'm not finished. I'm behind. So I should be on the second week of Rocket Summer, which is books written in the 1940s. And I'll get there, but I have to finish this book first. I've got like 100 pages left in this book. It's interesting. Campbell is interesting. He, of course, is famous for being the editor of Astounding Science Fiction. He was very influential as an editor, more influential as an editor than he was as a writer, although his stories are interesting. Oddly enough, this story, which is very fantastical, actually has aged better than a lot of the stories in here, because Campbell was a science fiction writer who was heavy on the science, but he was writing in the 1930s, and a lot of his science is wrong, that's just inevitable when you read science fiction that is this old. You know, I mean, he's writing about things and predicting things and predicting how certain things would work, and those things are wrong a lot of the time. So you're reading it and it's like, well, that is impossible, or that, you know, there's a lot of that going on. And so the science in here definitely does not age well, particularly since there's a lot of pseudoscience in here. And there's some things in here that would have been pseudoscience even when he was writing these stories. But that was Campbell, you know. But as stories, they're pretty good. I mean, they're not brilliantly written. He's not the greatest writer in the world. But there's some pretty good stuff in here. It's interesting that he is so concerned in these stories about the future of humanity. A lot of these stories take place, you know, thousands of years in the future. And they deal with invasions of the planet Earth from aliens, and in a couple of stories in here, it's not about the invasion itself. Humanity has already been conquered in some of these stories, in a couple of these stories, and it's what happens after that, after human beings have been enslaved by aliens. But he's also very concerned with artificial intelligence, which is an interesting thing that he was speculating on. He was very concerned about robots taking over society, and artificial intelligence taking over society, and what would happen to human beings if machines become too smart and too in control. And of course, we do live in a time when war is being waged literally by flying killer robots. So, we are living in a science fiction world, the kind of world that he would have been concerned about. Of course, artificial intelligence seems to be mostly interested in making terrible imitation music and awful imitation art. But, eventually it could be serious. And it's interesting that Campbell, way back in the 30s, was speculating on this and was very concerned about that. I haven't got to the main event for this book, though, which is, of course, Who Goes There, the story that became The Thing in the films. And that is a wonderful illustration from Who Goes There, also known as The Thing. It's a great cover. So yeah, I've got about 100 pages left of this, and then after I'm done with that, I'll move on to something for Rocket Summer for the 1940s. And I have also got a Doc Savage book I have to read, and The Shadow, and more science fiction, and at least a couple detective novels I want to read this month for PI July, Private Eye July. That is also going on this month, but I didn't read anything for that this week, so we'll see how it goes next time. Okay, I'll shut up now because I've been going on forever. I hope to see you tomorrow for Epic Comic Book Wednesday, but who knows? The way things are going, I just don't know when I'll be able to get back. Okay, guys, I will catch you next time.